Hey guys, it's Charlene. Today I'm going to share with you a gorgeous card using the brand new Prickly Pear Die Set from Altenew. So here's the card. It's beautiful and you guys are going to love this die set and how easy it is to put together. So Altenew does this fun thing on their packaging where they show you exactly how to put things together, and they include a little thing on your die cuts that's going to make things so much easier. So you saw I cut everything out of white cardstock, and now I'm using my paper pouncers to color all of my die cuts. If you don't have paper pouncers, you absolutely could do this with a blending brush as well. I am using Concord and 9th Nectar ink as well as Pink Lemonade. So I'm starting out with the Nectar. These two colors are so beautiful. They're part of the new release that Concord and 9th just had on their inks not that long ago. And I think they're two of my favorite colors. They go together so well. So what I'm doing is I'm going in and coloring all the petals of one of the flowers. There's two different flowers in this die set. You see up there in the top row, I have the first flower, and then on the bottom row is the second flower. So I'm coloring all the petals first with the Nectar, and then I'm going to come back in with the Pink Lemonade to add some shading to the centers of my flowers. Adding the shading is a really crucial step for these big die cuts, and I think it's one that I often have overlooked in the past, and it's really easy to do. You just add the shading to the center, so that way when you layer up these die cuts, the shading is peeking out from the center and it makes it look more alive and like it has some dimension to it. So I absolutely recommend taking that extra step. It only takes a little bit of time to add the shading to the center like I'm doing here. Now you could color the flowers in the same colors, but I think it looks nice to have contrasting or complementary colored flowers next to each other. So the first flower I did kind of in that pinky peach tone family, and for the second flower I'm coming in here with some yellows and some orange tones. I used Buttercup for all of the petals, and now I'm coming in with Clementine, which is a darker orange color, and I'm using that to add the shading to the centers on all of these flowers. Now, if you ever need any inspiration when you're putting together florals, just Google the type of flower that you are putting together. You'd actually really be surprised by how many different variations of a flower that there are in nature. So once I finished up the petals, I did the centers, and I did those again in Buttercup and Clementine. Now I do later at the very end of the card change my mind and switch out the darker orange center with Marmalade instead of Clementine. The prickly pear is a really beautiful plant. It's a flowering plant in the cactus family. So it has these beautiful cacti leaves as well. And so I'm coming in here right now with some sprout, and I am coloring in the cacti leaves. And then I'm going to go back with some parsley to add some shading to these large die cuts as well. So again, with the large die cuts, shading really adds a lot. And it's pretty easy to do with the pouncers. You could do this with a blending brush if you're more comfortable with that. But I did do it with the pouncers and didn't have any issues with getting the shading around on these large pieces. So now that everything's colored, I can put everything together, and I think this is where Altenew really shines. Do you see that keyhole there? This makes the process of lining up your die pieces so easy. Like you just put them exactly where they're supposed to go, and they match up with the keyhole, and it looks perfect when it's done. This is kind of, it requires very little thought, and it just makes the process, I feel like, a lot more enjoyable because I enjoy the coloring, I enjoy figuring out the design of the card, but you know, I didn't draw the flower, and trying to figure out where to put the petals, that takes me a while. So I really appreciate that Altenew makes that part easy and I don't have to think about it. So I've glued down the next layer there, and it's really remarkable. Once this flower is put together, the amount of realness it has to it. It's so pretty. I almost did not want to put it on a card. I just kind of wanted to put it on my desk so I could look at it, but that's, neither here nor there. I didn't. I put it on a card, and at the end, you're going to see the card looks really amazing. So I finished the second flower as well. I'm really happy with both of them. And now I can put together the whole card. I'm going to be using these beautiful ornate nesting dies. These are really pretty, not your traditional circle, square, or rectangle. They have these beautiful stylized ends, and I really like that. So I cut one out in white, and I cut one out in pink lemonade cardstock, and now I'm going to layer them up. And now the reason I used the pink lemonade cardstock is because I have that pink lemonade ink that I did on the center of one of the flowers, and so I like to try and tie in any kind of border color I'm using. I like to tie it into whatever my elements are. I feel like it makes the card look a little bit more cohesive. So the fact that you have that pink lemonade on the center of the flower, it looks really nice with the pink lemonade border. So I'm going to glue both of them down to the card base, and now I can glue the flowers as well as the cactus leaves to the front of the card. Now I did get an idea of sort of how I wanted all of this to look before I started putting it together, but because these are larger die cuts, I didn't feel like I needed to use the press and seal trick, which I love for smaller die cuts. If you want to see the trick I'm talking about, just check out the video that I put out a couple days ago. It's the one right before this, and I will also link to it at the end if you want to watch it. But I'm going to try and arrange everything so that it is balanced on the card. So I'm putting the cactus leaves in a triangle formation, and that's going to be really pleasing to your eye. For the florals, I have the two blooms, but they are also going to be in a triangle formation because they are going to work with the sentiment. So I'll have two blooms and one sentiment, and I'm going to set those up so that they're in a triangle. The other thing I wanted to point out is that I only added glue to the back center of the flowers, and now I'm just making sure to push that down really well so it dries there. But I didn't add glue anywhere else on the backs of the petals because I want to come in here with some double-sided foam squares, and I want to put them underneath the petals in different spots in order to add even more dimension to this card. And you'll notice that I'm not even taking off the top layer. I'm just sticking these adhesive squares down to the cardstock and then letting the petal rest on it. So what this is going to do, it's going to make it so that the petals don't get smushed down. When you send it through the mail, pull it out of the envelope, by the time it gets to its destination, oftentimes any kind of extra dimension that you've added by folding and creasing and things like that will have gotten pushed down, and it's just not going to have the same beautiful effect that you were hoping for. But if you add some foam behind it, it's going to pop back up once it comes out of the envelope, once it reaches its final destination. So you could add the foam down to the card base, like under the very back petals, and you can also add it to the front petals. So you can see I've added foam, little pieces here and there in lots of different spaces until I got the card to the point that I really liked how those petals were looking. To make things easy, I'm using some non-stick scissors. I definitely recommend having those in your craft room. They make it so much easier. And now I am adding my sentiment. I did foil this off camera. It is a set. It's the Encouraging Sentiments hot foil plate set. And then there's also a coordinating die set. And I used that also in the last video that I did with lots of tips on layered die cuts. So as I mentioned towards the beginning of this video, I actually decided once I had the entire card put together that I wanted to change the color of the darker portion of the center of the flowers. I wanted it to be a deeper, darker orange. So I actually very carefully just peeled those off and I die cut a couple of new ones. And I colored them with some marmalade ink, and now I'm just gluing everything back together. And I think that darker orange just really makes the centers of those flowers pop, and it adds a little bit more contrast to the card. You have to let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I'm also curious to know if any of you have tried this style of die cuts where it has that keyhole center, which makes it so easy to line up, and what your thoughts are on it. I really think it's a innovative way to do these layered die cuts, and I love how easy it was for me to make this beautiful card. And it did not take very long. I'm going to tell you in real time, this card took me about 45 minutes to an hour to put together, which for me is actually pretty quick because I am a slow card maker. I tend to put something together, sit and think for a while, and then I might move something around. I save you guys from most of that in these videos. All right, well, there is the complete finished card. I hope you guys picked up some tips and tricks today. Please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so that I can continue bringing you more crafting content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.